Hey, it's Nathan, and in today's video, I kind of just want to talk about insecurity and how to really deal with insecurity. And the best way to do that is probably my own personal anecdote. And I guess the height of my insecurity was probably my junior year in high school. I was dating this girl. It was her first high school relationship. It was also my first high school relationship, and we were both insecure individuals when we got with each other. And being together, we kind of unintentionally projected our insecurities onto the other. So whenever we broke up, I was just left this very insecure person, and I had very poor self-image, no confidence, bad social anxiety, and I just overall didn't perceive myself in a good light. And I feel like the root of that was definitely just my own perceptions of myself. The real root of my insecurity was just how I perceived myself. I didn't find myself to be very attractive. I didn't have good habits, like just not eating. So I was a pretty skinny kid in high school for the most part. Um, I and a big thing was me acknowledging I had certain issues like bad social anxiety and no confidence, and it just felt like I acknowledged these things and I couldn't do anything about them. So it just kind of felt like this endless loop of getting sad because I have no confidence and anxiety, and it kind of made my confidence and anxiety worse. And then I acknowledge it got worse, and it was just a whole cycle. But what really helped was I was on TikTok, like any teenager ever, and there was a interview that popped up as one of the videos, and it was an interview with the NBA player Kyrie Irving. He's my personal favorite NBA player, so obviously I'm going to get media and content that caters to Kyrie. And in this interview, the interviewer kind of prompted the conversation with Kyrie by asking him, how does Kyrie feel about the media's perceptions on him? Now, Kyrie Irving, everybody's going to know him as the basketball player, but outside of playing basketball, which is his job, he's just a guy. And nobody really knows him except for obviously people that are close to him. But the average person is just going to only know Kyrie as a basketball player. So, Kyrie, he answers very honestly. He tells the reporter that why should he care about the media's perceptions? They only get to see him play basketball. They don't get to see him outside of work. He's not doing it for people around him. He does everything for himself because he's authentic and genuine. So when I saw this, it was pretty eye opening for me. In all honesty, I saw it and I really just kind of reflected because I knew a lot of my insecurities stemmed from my own perceptions of myself. So whenever I got judgment, and a lot of times I didn't actually really get judgment. A lot of people wouldn't say things. It was more so me trying to beat people to the punch, and not let them be able to judge. I'd refuse to do things for myself because I was worried people wouldn't like what I did or like this or that. I was really catering to other people's judgments prior to them even making a judgment. So I was really trying to beat them to the punch. So I didn't even necessarily get judgments from many people, but just for the sake of the story, I'd say I did, right? Why should it matter? These, and of course I'm not saying don't be self-aware. You want to remain self-aware but not care about other people's perceptions on you. And so obviously that means think before you act and speak, of course, still. You want to be very visible to the world, but you just don't want to care too much about judgments from other people. You should only care about your own perception of yourself. And so I almost had to treat it like a philosophy, like really ingrain it into my head that, hey, I don't care about other people's perceptions. Let me be me. Let me enjoy
30
myself.
seconds left.
And it was pretty difficult. I won't lie. It took a while of nailing it into my head, like, don't care about this other person's perception of you. Do what you want. So, like, for example, I'm a big anime fan, and I have plenty of anime shirts, but I would never wear them to school because I was afraid, oh, this person might think it's weird, so let me avoid it altogether. So, to avoid other people's judgments, I would almost sacrifice my own personal enjoyment in things, and I just became so infatuated with the idea of other people's perceptions when the whole time it truly does not matter. Other people's perceptions don't matter, and I was really letting it take from my enjoyment with things. I would hold back walking through the hallways with my friends. And maybe I'd cut a convo short because somebody was walking the opposite direction and I didn't want them to hear and think we were having a weird conversation or think we were stupid for what we were talking about, and etc. And the whole time it just didn't matter. Why should it matter at all for, in regards to what these people think about you? It doesn't matter. And, who's to say these judgments were even going to be made in the first place? It's one thing if you're getting criticisms all the time and that's part of your issue with perceptions and people judging you. But a lot of times I was just trying to beat these people to the punch. They didn't even necessarily make comments or make these judgments to my face or anything. I was just so caught up in thinking that this is how they were going to think about it. Okay, let me try to avoid this person from ever thinking it. And it was just very toxic mindset that I kind of trapped myself in with. Just kind of living for other people. It felt like almost a slave to these people's perceptions of me. And the whole time, it truly did not matter, but I treated it so highly. Like, I kept other people's judgments held to such high regards rather than doing my own judging of myself. Nobody's going to truly know me for me. And I know that if I make this joke, I'm not actually stupid. I'm a university student. I'm not, of low intelligence because of this, and I'm not weird because I like anime and I wear this anime shirt. None of it mattered if as long as I'm doing it for myself. And a lot of times I just wasn't. I wasn't even living for myself. It sometimes felt like because of how deeply insecure I was. But yeah, this interview truly kind of woke me up in a sense on just the fact that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And again, I'm not saying that you shouldn't care and you can do whatever because you still want to remain self-aware. You want to be conscious of other people's and their thoughts and their feelings, and you want to think before you act and think before you speak. But if it's not doing you any harm or others any harm, why should it matter? Do what you enjoy. And, if that's wearing an anime shirt, or if that's making a silly joke, or doing something stupid in school for laughs with your friends, do it. Make those silly jokes. Wear that shirt. Wear that outfit that might be trash, but if you think it's fire, that's what really matters. Play that game that nobody else is playing, but you enjoy the mechanics of it. You enjoy it. Like right now, I have Valorant recording, and I was hating on Valorant up until a couple months ago when I gave it a try. There are plenty of people who hate this game, and I'm still playing it with my friends because it's enjoyable. That's what really matters, not other people's perceptions on the matter of it. But anyway, I just figured this was more interesting and seemingly a real issue everybody's going to deal with insecurity, I feel like, at some point. And hopefully if this helps anybody, then I feel like I'm doing some justice by making this video. But anyway, take care. See you next time.